Catholic Order of Foresters, dedicated to bringing Catholic values to life since 1883. Catholic Order of Foresters is looking to hire relevant radio listeners as new agents in each of our markets. For more information, call Mark at 855-696-2085.
Talk radio for Catholic life to start your day. It's Morning Air on Relevant Radio. With Glenn Leverance, here's your host, John Harper.
Good morning. It's 5 minutes after the hour, and happy St. Patrick's Day on this Tuesday, March 17th, 2015. John Harper, Glenn Leverance in this year of consecrated life. Take a look at the Carmelite monks. Also, it's Tech Tuesday. Mark Mastriani joins us with all the latest tech devices that we need. But right now, let's go to school. In the news, Glenn was just talking about the importance of teachers. I remember the importance of teachers in an all-boys Catholic education. What about the benefits of an all-girls Catholic education? We look at that now with Dr. Tracey Wilen, who's a prominent thought leader, impact of technology on society. She has worked with many of the major companies. We're talking about Apple, HP, Cisco, and so much more. Her brand new book, Employed for Life, 21st Century Career Trends. Dr. Tracey, good to have you back. Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Oh, happy St. Patrick's Day to you, too. Thank you.
Did you go to an all-girls Catholic school?
I did. I went from first grade all the way through 12th.
See, I went through Catholic education, and of course it was co-ed through eight of those grades, and then went to an all-Catholic boys' school that actually was a minor seminary for some of the boys.
Yeah.
And I was one of the day students, so I had 12 years of Catholic education, and does that give you a leg up for the rest of your life? I'd argue yes, and you've got empirical evidence from UCLA.
Right. Well, there's been a number of studies done, not only in the U.S., but also globally. But the one that caught my eye was a UCLA study that really showed that female graduates of single-sex high schools demonstrated much stronger academic orientations than their counterpart women in co-ed schools. And they outlined that they scored higher in SAT scores, much more confidence in their mathematical ability and computer skills. And when I saw that, I said I would absolutely agree with that based on my experience of attending an all-girl Catholic school, because it's just different, and I really appreciate the education background and also where my career direction went because of it.
Let me just play a little bit of devil's advocate for parents who just say, well, yeah, no, we understand that, and boy, that would be great, but shouldn't girls be integrated with boys, and we should do all of those societal things, and yes, even within the framework of a Catholic education? What do you say to that?
It was interesting, as I always dated throughout, when you started dating, and for some people it was 7th grade, 6th grade, 8th grade, I never didn't have a date. And I certainly liked the idea that dating was on weekends. Because we were pretty busy during the week. And the last thing you want to be when you're working and studying is distracted. And the one thing that my friends who went to co-ed schools would tell me is the guys would act out a lot and be very distracting in the classroom. And I just didn't have that experience, and I couldn't imagine what it would be like to study and then have all of this antics going on in the background.
Yeah, that's a very good perspective there. And by the way, Grace, who is helping produce the program, wants to do a shout out to her alma mater, which is Rosary High School, that was run by the Dominicans. And she went to an all-girls Catholic high school in Aurora, Illinois, and is seconding our points here this morning with Dr. Tracey Wilen and the benefits of an all-girls Catholic education. Maybe your daughter goes to an all-girls Catholic school. Let's hear about your experience as a parent. 877-766-3777 as we talk about the benefits of an all-girls Catholic education with Dr. Tracey Wilen. What are some, well, first of all, you're not distracted by boys. We've talked about that. What are some of the other differences that you observed, and also looking back at your time as a student in an all-girls Catholic school?
Well, I think one of the biggest differences you immediately notice is that, you have to wear a uniform and your friends don't. And they're always out shopping, buying clothes for school and the latest trends. And you don't have that. You just have to think about what you're going to wear on the weekend. And the uniform can be pretty prescriptive. Now, I've had girlfriends who went to Catholic schools that had much nicer uniforms than I did. Mine was pretty cumbersome with skirts and vests and blouses and jackets and all that. So,
what were your colors?
Oh, so we had blue skirts, which were plaid, and then we had green skirts that were plaid, and you had a matching vest, and you had to wear matching knee socks and Oxford shoes, which I hated. So I used to always sneak in a trendy shoe if I could.
Well, we would have matched if we did a mixer, because I was elementary school was maroon and white, and then in prep school we were navy blue and gray. So we would have matched at a mixer.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny because we weren't allowed to wear makeup or jewelry. So a lot of the things that my girlfriends down the street in public school were running around, shopping and reading all the fashion magazines, it was not as much of a priority because it didn't matter, because I knew what I had to wear every day to work. So
right, and that didn't mean that you were cloistered to Dr. Tracey Wilen. It just meant that you put some of those things in perspective. Same thing today.
Yes. Oh, definitely. And in fact, you definitely understand work suits versus like just an upgraded uniform, quite frankly. But you understand, there's social. I guess I just viewed it as you had social attire, and then you had school attire, and it was just two different worlds.
Again, playing devil's advocate as we talk with Dr. Tracey Wilen on the benefits of an all-Catholic girls' education here at 11 after the hour. A parent might say, well, it's up to the child. I mean, I can get a good education in the public school system. It's up to my child. If it's a smart child, there are great teachers there as well. What type of classes did you take? And I'm just thinking back to my time in an all-boys Catholic high school. It seemed that, based on my friends in the public school system, that we were a little bit ahead. Almost to the point of, in my senior year, taking freshman type classes from, the curriculum would be equivalent to being a freshman in college. So we seemed like we had a little bit of a leg up.
Yeah, well, I had all nuns, and the nuns were very into math and science. And everybody had to take 4 or 5, really the equivalent of 5 years of freshman math, 4 or 5 years of science, plus labs, chemistry. We had to take foreign language, English, and then we also, it was interesting, we had to take religion. We had to go to church every day.
Yeah.
But we also did PE, physical education, art, and home economics. And I'm like, we packed a lot into a day with study breaks and lunch. So that's why I think the distraction thing was a benefit, because when you're cruising through a day with a lot of classes and a lot of learning, but you just don't want anyone getting in your way,
And you had fun. I had fun in high school. There was nothing that was left. I just cherish all of those friendships that I made. And we had a ball every day. And again, with a lot of classes, we had 8 periods starting at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, I call it, fun without pressure.
Ooh, that's good.
Yeah, I mean, my girlfriends, and it's interesting, because I went on to college and graduate school and postgraduate school. The girlfriends I keep up with are the ones from my elementary school, and I'm out on the West Coast and they're on the East Coast. And you just pick it up again. You pick up the phone and you can talk just like you did then. And I don't have the same synergy with my college girlfriends or my graduate school girlfriends.
Yeah, because they just seem to be scattered about. That's almost a 4-year snapshot. It's interesting you mentioned that about college friends, because that's a 4-year snapshot as opposed to the connection that you have in the Catholic faith with those that you went to not only elementary school but also high school. And we've got Facebook pages now for those of us who went to those schools. So we kind of keep that memory alive, which is kind of cool.
Yes, and here's the other thing is, if you go back, when I go back home, go back east, you know what church and what mass to go to, because that's the social scene, right? That's where everyone goes to catch up. And so, like midnight mass on Christmas and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, a lot of it just was part of your life. It wasn't an external entity, it was just you had mass every day, you went to church together, you had your religion classes. Everything was just integrated. It was just part of life.
We're talking about the benefits of an all-girls Catholic education. Dr. Tracey Wilen is our guest. Perhaps you have your kids in an all-girls Catholic school, all-boys Catholic secondary school. 877-766-3777. 877-766-3777 here at 14 after the hour. Plus, One of the other things to bring up is confidence. We were no less confident than our friends who went to public school. In fact, I think we were perhaps better equipped to handle some of the social skills of going out and getting a job and dealing with life in general coming out of that formation.
I would agree, and I think that's really important for young women because many women I meet today, and I've met over the years in the workforce, just didn't have the same level of confidence that I had. And a lot of it was really because I had very strong-willed nuns, powerful nuns, who really surrounded me with, you will achieve, you will do this, I have no doubts in you. There was never any judgment. It was just everybody had to, in that school, was there to be successful. And the nuns reinforced that. And I think that's very good for young women to have strong female role models to help reinforce so that when they're going through whatever challenges of life, that they still believe in themselves. And I've absolutely noticed that confidence is a huge difference between myself and other women colleagues.
And to follow up on that point of the strength of these nuns, and I remember with the priests, yeah, they pushed you. Yeah, they were great role examples for you, not only in life but in perseverance. But they were also great, now that I look back, you may not appreciate it at that particular moment, but certainly when I went to college, about how important they were in my faith formation and giving me the foundation, now that I was out on my own, to maintain and keep and grow that relationship with God.
Yes, and I would reinforce that it's the ethics. So when I went off to college, I was amazed at the ethical differences that I had, just my perspective of why I was at college, what I was going to achieve, versus other people at college who almost, I felt like, hadn't had the opportunity to grow up yet. And so they were looking, going to parties, or it was the first time they really had free dating, and really exploring in things that I was like, oh my goodness, you're pretty immature at this stage of the game. When you're in college, you're at a whole new level of sophistication and professionalism that it was confusing to me. And then I realized it comes down to to your faith, to your ethics. You had a good sense of right and wrong. And you knew what was appropriate to do and what was not appropriate to do. And I don't know if all my other classmates in college had that same sense of judgment and character.
And perhaps something that you didn't appreciate at the time it's almost a time release thing here, is the sacrifice that your mom and dad had. Now, today, a secondary education in an all-girls in an all-girls or an all-boys Catholic school isn't cheap. It's expensive, and yes, there are scholarships available, but I look back and now thank my parents for the sacrifice that they had, because it wasn't cheap then, relatively speaking.
Oh no, it was very expensive. We were, middle class, and our neighborhood, both my mother and father had to work, and they did that because they wanted to make sure that we had a really good education, and that was their priority. And however they were going to make that happen, they were going to make that happen. And then they re-emphasized it that once I graduated from high school, that education would continue. I would need to help support it, but I was not going to stop. There was no option of stopping at high school. You had to go on to college. You had to go make something of yourself. And then if you could afford graduate school, good for you, because that's really where we'd love you to go, not that we could afford it. So I would agree with it. I think the sacrifice and the focus, very impressed. My mother in particular would sit down with me a lot if I had a hard time with school and make sure that I understood things, because she just felt that education was critical for success.
Same thing with my parents, is they spent that time with me to help me out on those, when I would just go with any kind of difficulty that I may have had with one of the courses. And, it was difficult for them too, because of the level of some of the work, but they always managed, it's the Holy Spirit at work, they always managed to have an answer, not give me the answer, but help me discern how to get to the answer.
Yes, and if they didn't know, they would make sure they found. I remember my mother marching down, to talk to the nuns about how are we going to improve her grade, who's going to help her. Well, I need her getting straight A's. Another point that I've heard about, and read about, is this male versus female subjects. And I didn't have that experience, so I didn't know that math and science were masculine, and language and reading and was feminine. Yet somehow or another in non-Catholic schools or integrated schools, the students would migrate, to one or the other. And to us, it was just subjects, grueling subjects, and you had to take them all, and no one got excused from it. But I read more about how in some of the co-ed experiences, the girls get sort of partitioned off into more feminine classes, and the guys get, moved into more masculine classes. I don't know if you had that experience, because I was all girls, so I didn't have that, but maybe co-ed you did.
I was not in co-ed. I was in an all-boys high school.
High school,
and
that's
yeah, but in elementary school, I have to stop to think about that. It was a very long time ago. It's 20 after the hour. Dr. Tracey Wilen talking about the benefits of an all-girls Catholic school education, of course, an all-boys Catholic education as well. Janet is joining our conversation this morning at 877-766-3777. Good morning, Janet. Welcome to Morning Air.
Good morning. Thank you for taking my call. First of all, my daughter was friends with Grace at Rosary High School in Aurora. So tell her Hannah's mom says hi.
Okay, Grace is helping produce the show, so that there's a shout out for Rosary High School in Aurora.
Yep, she shouted out, and I'm shouting back to her, hello. Okay, so I have a daughter who is currently a sophomore at Rosary High School, and I have a daughter who graduated the same year as Grace, and I have a son who went to their brother's school, all-boys school, Marmion, in Aurora. And I am so excited that you were talking about this on the air, because there's so many myths and misconceptions about single-gendered school, and it's time to bust them open. There's no perfect place on earth, and including any high school that you name. And some of the public schools have more funding, and so they can offer different classes that these smaller Catholic schools can't. But they cannot offer the same experience, and they cannot offer the same spiritual safety net when things go bad in the teenager's life, which they always do. These kids are caught. They're caught by their faith, and they're caught by their friends that share their faith, and the staff and all the teachers are just so in tune with who the person is. And your guest was talking about the distractions. There are no distractions. And I remember when my older daughter was in 8th grade, and some of her classmates were teasing her because she was going to be going to an all-girls school, and they were saying really derogatory things, as you can imagine, about her not liking boys. And I heard her say, I like boys just as much as the next person, but I don't need them in my math class. And that carried her through the day, and she wound up with some awesome scholarships and some really terrific, unbelievable opportunities in college, which I frankly thought she had no right to. And I asked her, how are you getting these things? How are you earning all this stuff? You're not really as focused as you could be, and sometimes I don't think you work as hard. And she said, Mom, Rosary High School prepared me. They taught me how to write. I know how to write. They taught me how to speak. They taught me how to be confident. And those are her words. And she has just done so well with so many great opportunities. And when she first went away to school, she goes to a Catholic college now. And she said, Mom, I can tell in the classroom which girls went to an all-girls school, because they're the ones that raise their hand, and they're the ones that are empowered to answer the questions and share. And some of the other girls are still primping and looking at the boys. So I can't say enough about Catholic education at the high school level. I really can't.
Beautifully said, Janet. Thank you for adding to the conversation this morning. You can't get a better endorsement than that, Dr. Tracey.
No, and actually, I really love her point about her daughter saying raising your hand. I had that same experience. When I went to college, I never thought twice about raising my hand in any class, and I remember people looking at me very strange, like I was overconfident. And I agree with her, because yes, there's no reason why you shouldn't raise your hand in your mind, but somehow the other girls were socialized to kind of go into the background. So yeah, your daughter, wow, how exciting. How exciting.
Janet, Thank you so much. And Dr. Tracey Wilen on the benefits of single-gender Catholic education, all boys or all girls today. And you've heard of all of the benefits of the all-girls Catholic education and the all-boys Catholic education. If I'm a benefit, I don't know, maybe that's a small b. I'm probably not the best poster child for that. But Dr. Tracey Wilen is online at traceywilen.com. We'll put her link on our Morning Air Facebook page. Always a spirited conversation when you come to the show. Thank you, Dr. Tracey Wilen.
Thank you.